a lot of difficulties. And while we all have been home and recuperating, we thought it was time that we should start looking at new things. And today being the museum day, when Ganesh Shivaswamy suggested we do this collaborative talk, I was more than willing. I thought it would be a great idea for us to have the talk on reimagining the museum, the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, which is the iconic museum of Ravi Varma in Trivandrum. So for those of you who have not joined us on our TAP Talks earlier, TAP is a platform which is a collective of several galleries, and we have talks couple of times every month. You can log into our website to look at our programming, and or send us an email and we'll put you on our mailing list. For a little bit of the tech etiquette, I request you all to put your mics on mute and to please post your questions in the chat box. So while I welcome our speakers, Ganesh, Giri, and Zeba, thank you so much for joining us, for agreeing to be part of this evening. And let's enjoy the evening in spite of what we have happening around us. Ravi Varma has been an artist who's taken up a lot of our imaginations and has been a center of a lot of conversations recently. And we're so happy to hear the new way that you all are reimagining this museum and reimagining how things are going to be presented. So as you all know, the Sree Chitra Art Gallery is in Trivandrum, and Ganesh will tell you more about it. But I thought I'll do a little formal introduction. So let me introduce our first speaker, and in between every speaker, I'll give you the introduction to the next speaker. Ganesh Shivaswamy is a fifth-generation lawyer. He's a lawyer by profession, and his passion and absolute first love is art, and it is Ravi Varma. He took up collecting the oleographs when he was only 13 years old, and this grew his entire interest in Ravi Varma. And he now has a collection of 126 out of the 132 that were produced by the Ravi Varma Press. And in 2006, he commemorated the centennial death anniversary of the artist by creating the first online catalog of prints from the press. Ganesh still continues his research on Ravi Varma and is presently writing a book on the social, religious, and aesthetic impact of the images from the Ravi Varma Press. He was also appointed the curator of the Ravi Varma Museum, which is the Sree Chitra Art Gallery in Thiruvananthapuram, which is dedicated to the works of Ravi Varma and associated artists. Following him will be Zeba, who is the architect, and followed by Girikumar, who is the conservation specialist, who will talk about the conservation of the works and how to look at them for the future. So over to you, Ganesh. Thank you so much again.
Well, thank you. Before I begin, my gratitude to you, Sharon, for organizing this talk. And of course, to the Sree Chitra Art Gallery. I see that we have Mr. Abu Shivdas, the director, with us this evening. My gratitude to Dr. Venu Vasudevan, Manjula Harilal, Vijay Lakshmi, Jai Krishna, and the entire Sree Chitra Art Gallery team for making this, this talk again possible. I also see on screen a dear friend, Dr. Chudamani Nandagopal has joined us. Welcome, ma'am, to the platform. And with this, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to begin. Well, as Sharon rightfully said, we are all here today, but our minds are elsewhere. And interestingly, in a good sense, this is exactly how Ravi Varma actually began to think about a museum. And how did he do it? Well, there are many ways in which Ravi Varma did it. One of the ways in which he did it, and I'm sharing my screen with you now, is through a very large collection of books. You see, Ravi Varma extensively collected books, and the earliest reference to Ravi Varma, and in Venu's words, says, pored over the albums of European art, was in the library of Maharaja Ailyam Tirunal, whom you see on the screen now. You see, interestingly, when Ravi Varma, who was born in Kilimanur, when he went to Trivandrum and stayed in Trivandrum, he stayed at a place called the Mudatha Madam. And the library label which you see on the right is a very rare label. It's the only label which I've been able to find, is the Kilimanur Mudatha Madam Library. So this would have been one of Ravi Varma's earliest acquisitions of books. And a lot of books did he acquire. And he studied extensively. So one of the pictures, one of the illustrations is modern painters. And you look closely, you can actually see Ravi Varma's stamp there. These are all from Ravi Varma's library. Here is another set of books. He was buying these books extensively in Bombay, and there's even a reference to purchasing it in Calcutta from stationery shops, interestingly, like Tarapurwala and Co, or Thacker and Co. And these are all the books which Ravi Varma acquired. What did these books do? Well, the books directly influenced certain paintings. One of the pictures which you're seeing on the screen is a reclining Nair lady, which is taken, interestingly, directly from one of the illustrations. Here is a picture of Varini. So the chromolithograph is called Varini, and the illustration is again from one of Ravi Varma's books. Now, what happened was, it not only directly influenced these pictures, but it also gave Ravi Varma a wider vision. And why? Because he's looking at these books and he's looking at European art, which directly influences some of his works. He's also looking at museums. He has pictures of museum after museum. There are articles about museum after museum. And so he decides, he's already beginning to contemplate a larger vision. He's catering for the patron, but he's thinking about the public. And one of the people who's instrumental in taking this forward is a suggestion which comes in from Tanjavur Madhava Rao. He's the Diwan of Baroda, and he, in 1884, he tells Ravi Varma, look, there's so many demands for you, for your pictures. You will never be able to paint all of them. So why don't you do one thing? Send your pictures to Europe and have them oleographed. And it would do you a lot of good, because your reputation will stand extended and it'll do a lot of service to the country. So the first pronged attack of democratization begins with the establishment of the Ravi Varma Press. The Ravi Varma Press, I am going to clarify right here, although was in the name of Ravi Varma, never belonged to Ravi Varma. It started in a partnership with C. Rajaraja Varma and Govardhan Das Khattau Makkanji. Thereafter, Khattau Makkanji exited the partnership. C. Rajaraja Varma owned it as a sole proprietary concern, and thereafter it got sold to the German Fritz Leischer. So it was in the name of Ravi Varma, but the press was at no point of time owned by Ravi Varma. The picture which you see on the screen is the first chromolithograph to be issued by the Ravi Varma Press. The one on the right is the chromolithograph, and it's called The Birth of Shakuntala. I love the spelling there. And the painting on the left is the exemplar from which it was made. This was issued in July of 1894, and in the very same year, you had the Lakshmi and Saraswati chromolithographs which were issued. There's a very interesting advertisement which you see right in the middle, which says that the birth of Shakuntala, which was the first oleographic picture, was priced at 6 rupees. It was a huge sum of money for 1894. And then it goes on to say the second and third pictures, Lakshmi and Saraswati, were priced at 2 rupees each. Now, although they were expensive, they clearly democratized art. And by 1895, the Ravi Varma Press had issued both of these chromolithographs, the Radha and the Damayanti. The Damayanti is on the left of your screen, and the Radha is on the right of your screen. Now, in 1895, the second thought process in Ravi Varma begins. So he's done the first process of democratization through a press in his name, which continues all the way till 1980. But the second prong attack is in a conversation with this gentleman. This is Mr. Grigg, the political resident of Travancore. And Ravi Varma starts a conversation with him. He says, look, I've been looking at all of these books. I've been looking at a whole lot of other people, and there are museums everywhere. We should bring in a museum into the capital of the Kingdom of Travancore in present-day Thiruvananthapuram. Unfortunately, what happens is Greg dies. And so Ravi Varma really doesn't lose any time. And the minute Shungra Subbayar Avargal becomes the Divan, the gentleman on the screen, he starts a correspondence. And the first correspondence is in the year 1895, the same year when those two chromolithographs were issued. The first letter which he actually writes is dated 31st of August, 1895. Last year, I spoke commemorating 125 years from the date of this letter. Now, what happens interestingly is in the letter which Ravi Varma writes, I've extracted portions of it. He makes out a case. He becomes a lawyer. He makes this huge representation to the Divan. And one of the things which he says is, I've extracted it in the second paragraph. He says, all the capitals and even provincial towns of the countries of Europe possess picture galleries which have cost millions of pounds. Every year, the governments of these countries buy a certain number of the best paintings from various art exhibitions to replenish their galleries and encourage promising artists. For instance, nearer home, I wish to cite Baroda. His Highness the Gaikwad possesses a collection of paintings and statuary that is the admiration of every visitor to the state. I must be honest with you, when I read this letter, it reminded me of a present conversation. You know, he's got the latest iPhone and you've got an Oppo. How could you? So let's do what the Gaikwad Baroda is doing. It's exactly that conversation which takes place in 1895. But of course, he wants to now become spiritual. So he's done the materialistic argument. The next thing he goes into is in the last paragraph. He says, a great writer says, wherever the arts are cultivated with success, they almost imperceptibly educate the general taste and make politeness of mind keep pace with the refinement of manners. There is a wonderful poem actually which says the whole world without art and dress would be but one great wilderness. That is exactly sort of the same thing which Ravi Varma writes in his letter. This letter, nothing much comes of it for about a year, but a year later, in 1896, 125 years earlier, Ravi Varma is called upon to send a list. And the list which he sends has 4 paintings. The first is the brave Kusumavati. The second is Draupadi at the court of Virat. The third is Damayanti in the Hamsa or Swan. And the fourth is Shakuntala assailed by a wasp, calls to the king to help her. These 4 paintings are sent in a list, and each of them are priced between 1,500 rupees and about 1,000 rupees each. Interestingly, what happens is the first painting, which is on the list, was actually painted. And the list is sent to the palace, but the first painting is not selected. The list is sent to His Highness Moolam Thirunal at the palace, and the palace administration replies back by saying the first painting we would like you to paint is Draupadi at the court of Virat. So the first painting which actually enters the picture gallery, which today is the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, is the picture which you're seeing on the screen now. This was painted in the year 1897. This was then followed by these 2 pictures, Draupadi and the Enchantress Simhika and Shakuntala. Ravi Varma in the archives only calls it Shakuntala. He doesn't call it anything else. Both of these are painted in the year 1898. Then 1899 is Rukmangada and Mohini. This is the 4th picture which enters the picture gallery. And then the 5th picture which enters the picture gallery is Damayanti in the Hamsa. Now, Damayanti in the Hamsa is the last picture which is commissioned under the administration of Maharaja Moolam Thirunal. But Damayanti in the Hamsam is also a very important picture, which I will come to as to why it's important. But the reason why I feel it's important for very many reasons. I can't get into all of them now. But one of the reasons why it's very important is because after Ravi Varma passed away, Ravi Varma's legacy and style came under a lot of criticism. The Bengal faction, as I would like to call them, severely sort of discounted Ravi Varma's works. Havel, Sister Nivedita, Kumaraswamy, all of these people came on board and then said, you know, Ravi Varma's pictures are so European. It doesn't sort of represent the continuum of the evolution of the Indian aesthetic. They felt that the Bengal school did it better. So they were heavily critical of Ravi Varma's pictorials, as also the chromolithographs from the press. They had great objection to this it being found in every hut and every shanty town. They said, no, art cannot go that far. So Ravi Varma came under a lot of criticism. But way out in the year 1971, the Indian Postal Department decided that they were going to make a commemorative stamp. And of all of the pictures which Ravi Varma had painted and had been printed from the Ravi Varma press, the picture which they chose to adorn the stamp was the Damayanti. So in my view, the Damayanti is very important because it is this picture which endured all of the criticism and went on to become the face of the stamp. Ladies and gentlemen, it's also interesting to observe that this stamp is exactly 50 years old. It was issued on 29th of April, 1971. So today we are actually acknowledging 50 years of the commemorative stamp. So with this, the first commission of 5 pictures got over and nothing much really happened until 1935. By this time, the Maharaja is His Highness Chitra Tirunal. And Maharaja Chitra Tirunal was a very pragmatic Maharaja, and he was a very modern Maharaja. One of the things he did was the Temple Entry Proclamation. So he democratized religion, and he did it just before he democratized art through the establishment of the museum. What you're seeing on your screen now is the first catalog authored by James Cousins, and you have the speech issued by His Highness Maharaja Chitra Tirunal when the Sree Chitralayam, as it was called then, was inaugurated on 25th of September 1935. I have to acknowledge, by looking at these reports, these are called the administration reports of the Sree Chitralayam, how the collection came to be. And when you look and you study these volumes, it's called, there are about 14 or 16 of these reports. Starting, of course, with 1935 and ending somewhere in about 1946. The one place you will have to acknowledge without any doubt is Kilimanur. Just as Kilimanur gave Ravi Varma to the world, Kilimanur gave the substantially large component of the collection to the Sree Chitra Art Gallery. So what you see today at the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, a lot of it came in from Kilimanur. So this is the administration reports of the Sree Chitralayam have been an invaluable source of information for that purpose. The Sree Chitralayam went on to finally be called the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, and this is the building which you will see today, endowed with a golden hue. It's a beautiful building. It's been housing the works of Ravi Varma and the other artists ever since 1935. Now it was felt that because these old buildings, as you can see, have so many windows, because they were all made for ventilation, had so many windows, it was very difficult to climate control. And therefore, it was felt that a new building was required. And here I am going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to request Zeba to bring up the new building. The new building, ladies and gentlemen, consists of 2 floors. It is constructed behind the heritage building without really disturbing anything. And when I was appointed the curator of the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, my general mandate, it was not a sacrosanct mandate. They suggested to me, they said, on the ground floor you put in Raja Ravi Varma, and on the first floor you put in the artists associated with Ravi Varma. So when I started the curation, the first thing I did was to re-examine the collection. The first list which was given to me consisted of 43 paintings and 2 certificates. That is 45 items in all. As I told you, I re-examined the collection. I first looked at all the pictures which were already on the wall. And we discovered that there were some paintings over there. There was specifically one painting, the lady playing the veena, which was catalogued as anonymous, but actually was by Ravi Varma. So we brought that into the collection. The other thing which I did was to look into storage. So considering that this was a refreshed tribute to the artist and a permanent tribute to the artist, I brought out a lot of things from storage. I also brought in the chromolithographs, because I am of the view that the chromolithographs represent a continuum in Ravi Varma's visual legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy to tell you that the ground floor has now been enlarged from 45 items to 83 items on the ground floor. This is therefore an addition of 84% of the existing display. It is therefore the largest collection of Ravi Varma under a single roof. The next largest collection, which is the largest private collection, is the Royal Gaikwad collection in Baroda. So we've now taken this and made it the largest collection of Ravi Varma. So with 83 items on the ground floor, it posed a challenge. The collection was huge. So how is it going to be arranged on the wall? The second was the old museum, as you saw, had a lot of windows and a lot of alcoves. So the wall space was very limited. Here, on the other hand, you have extensive wall space, as you're seeing on the screen now. But that posed a challenge because you just couldn't randomly put up pictures. So I decided that not only we should also be conscious of it being an aesthetic display. It cannot be a random display. Then with 83 items, I was thinking, how am I going to organize the display? Initially, I thought I would do it chronologically, but I decided to dispense with chronology for very many reasons. One is many of the paintings just did not have dates. So there's no way in which you could actually decipher which painting was painted on which day. Even the administration reports did not give you the dates of these paintings. The second is, if you look at Ravi Varma's works, for instance, like Rembrandt, his style evolved. Ravi Varma's did not evolve substantially. It evolved. A very discerning eye will be able to tell you this is one of his early works, this is one of his later works. But actually, even that is done with great approximation. So if I were to go chronologically, the problem is going to be that I would likely make a lot of mistakes. The third most important reason why I dispensed with chronology was because, you see, Ravi Varma's images resonate over different time periods, especially when it comes to the chromolithographs. So you'll have the painting of a particular date and you'll have a chromolithograph of another date. You will never be able to put them side by side and make a comparison. So I decided I'm going to completely dispense with chronology. I therefore went in for a thematic display. The themes which I have evolved for Ravi Varma's works are mythology and classical drama, the Udaipur collective, the artist at work, portraits, the women's collective, the sketches, the chromolithographs, and the Mysore collective. So keeping a thematic display in mind and keeping the themes in mind, I'd like to introduce you to the ground floor. What you're seeing now is the panorama of the ground floor. And now we will go into the first of the themes, which is mythology and classical drama. Zeba, thank you. This is the mythology and classical drama segment, which you see on the screen. And ladies and gentlemen, you will see the 5 pictures which first entered the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, as I had taken you through. And I had decided that I was going to put Damayanti right in the middle, exactly for the reason which I had already taken you through, because Damayanti is the one which endured. If you were to think of Ravi Varma, and a religious work, you'll think of Lakshmi. But if you were to say Ravi Varma and a mythological work, you will invariably think of Damayanti. So Damayanti is gone right to the center. Now I'll take you through the mythology section. We'll start from the left extreme. The one which you see on the left is a watercolor, a preparatory of Sita Swayamvaram. And the one on the right is a chromolithograph. Now, the wonderful thing about putting these two together is because if you notice on the left and the right, there are differences. You see, what had happened was Ravi Varma had written a letter to the Maharaja of Mysore saying, I am now going to start the final work. So would you like me to, and I'm enclosing sketches, would you like me to paint Rama fair, or would you like me to paint Rama in the shade of blue as he's described? Evidently, in the sketch which Ravi Varma sends, which you see on the left, Rama is blue. But the one on the right, which is derived, this is a chromolithograph derived from the Mysore collection. It is presently on display at the Sejja in the Mysore Palace. It's the only painting to remain in the Sejja. All the others have gone into the Jagan Mohan Palace. The chromolithograph on the right, which you see, which is derived from the painting, Rama is fair. So I've always maintained that you see the sketches represent the mind of the artist, but the final painting has elements of the patron's wishes. So the final painting many a time does not represent the mindset of the artist. And here is an example where you see there are differences between what Ravi Varma envisioned Rama as and what the patron envisioned Rama is. So now I hope you understand that this is the reason why the thematic display makes a lot more sense. We'll move to the right now, Zeba. This is the first picture, as I told you, Draupadi at the court of Virat, which entered the concept of a picture gallery which started in a correspondence in 1895. We'll move to the right again, please. Mohini in Rukmangada. Now look at what has happened here. In the present display, the painting is in one place and the preparatory sketch which on the lower right, which you see, is in a different place in the gallery. It's because there's no space to put them together. So here we've put them together. And what we've also done is the sketch on top. This has been retrieved from storage. So now you can actually ascertain, if you look at the pictures, you can understand that, okay, this is the mind of the artist. He went from here to here and went into the final picture. Now we'll move to the right again, please. Yes, here again, we look at two versions of Jatayavadam. The one on the left is a painting of the year 1895. And the one on the right is a chromolithograph, again derived from the Mysore collection. Ladies and gentlemen, this again highlights my concern that if I were to do it chronologically, the painting on the left will be 1895 and the picture on the right, the chromolithograph, there was one series issued in 1907. There was a second series which was issued in 1928. If I were to do it chronologically, there would be an opposite ends of the room. So therefore, I just wanted to highlight that this is the reason, one of the many reasons why I dispensed with a chronological arrangement. We'll move to the right, please. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Udaipur Collective, which you're seeing on the screen. The Udaipur Collective is a very, very interesting collective because it's possibly the best documented commission of Ravi Varma. And every one of the pictures which you see on the screen is accounted for in some form or the other. It's either in the diary or it's in a travelogue. You find every picture and there is a narrative to every single picture which you see on the screen, making the Udaipur Collective very important, very well documented commission in Ravi Varma's life. We'll move to the right, please. This, ladies and gentlemen, is my favorite wall. The artist at work. Now you may wonder what I mean by artist at work. Right in the middle is a simulated easel. Of course, the main easel will come in. For the 3D view, we've just put in an easel over there. But here you have it. If you look at it at first glance, it looks like this random assemblage of pictures, but it's not. It's very carefully put together, because if you zoom into the left, you see a very interesting sketch. And this is again coming from storage. You see a man in a studio, because in the background you can actually see paintings on easels, etc. But this man is sitting in front of a camera, and the man looks very similar to the portrait on the right, which is Grieg, the same Grieg with which the museum began the conversation. So this is the first element which you can discern, and that is Ravi Varma used photography. So that this is the first reason why I put in both of these one next to the other. And the student on the extreme left is because he studied extensively. As I showed you in the PPT, lots and lots of books Ravi Varma poured over before he could come to his final pictures, and of course his thought processes. We'll move to the right, please. This again brought out of storage. It is Ravi Varma's only self-portrait. And there you have him wearing this loose shirt, sporting a kudumi. He had a kudumi, which you can see. And he is busy painting a portrait. And the easel which he's perched this painting on is the easel which will actually be right in the middle of that particular segment which I told you, giving the self-portrait context to actually an object which is next to it. Interestingly, the man he's painting is possibly the portrait which you're seeing next to him. So this brings in a lot of context into how Ravi Varma worked. We'll go into the two photographs in the center. And these two photographs evidently illustrate how Ravi Varma was working, because you can see in the lower photograph, Ravi Varma standing in front of the very easel which will be in front of this photograph. And then, of course, at the top where he's happily listening to Vedas, which is being recited to him as he goes along in his mind, interpreting them for all of the wonderful works which he comes out with. We now move into the next this is the portrait collective. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a very interesting anecdote. The Broody kitchen picture, which you see right in the middle, this very impressive man, was commissioned by the Kitchen Memorial. Ravi Varma was commissioned to paint it, and there's a very beautiful excerpt which says, "The portrait is now complete and has been placed on display next to the royal couple." So that is what I decided to do. I said, we will put him back next to the royal couple. So there's a lot of history to the arrangement. It's not really a haphazard arrangement. Of course, keeping in mind the aesthetic sensibilities of a symmetrical arrangement. So we've kept both the couples on either side together. Why separate them now? Of course, the portrait collective spans all kinds of very important people, including the uncle of Ravi Varma, Bharani Tirunal Rajaraja Varma on the left. Now we'll move into the women's collective. This, I'm sure, is going to be of great interest to all of you. The one in the center here, we've gone more or less by the aesthetic of the display. So we put the largest one in the center, which is Judith, which is a copy which Ravi Varma made of a painting in the collection presently on display in the Maharaja Fateh Singh Museum in Baroda. Ravi Varma did copy this picture, and it is my view that he copied the picture because he was trying out a different technique of impastos. This is a painting where the impastos are very, very unusual. Then if you look at the lady playing the veena on the left, this is one of the pictures which got added to the list which I mentioned. Now we'll go to the next. This, ladies and gentlemen, we brought in two pictures from storage. The one on the top left is a beautiful sketch of Bharatanatyam dancers. It's got the most magical face, very enticing face. In fact, I like her face better than most of the paintings. It's a, very endearing face. And she's dancing. She's a Bharatanatyam dancer. She's actually a very important woman, which of course I don't have the time to get into now. And then the other one which we brought out of storage is a preparatory oil sketch for the painting of Mohini, the Temptress. Mohini on the Swing, which I'm sure all of us know as a chromolithograph. This was Ravi Varma's preparatory drawing of it. And you can see that there she is happily swinging away on a make-believe swing, which is not in the picture, but this is how Ravi Varma evolved his pictures. We now move into the next, which is on the, yes. Now coming to the northern wall, which, ladies and gentlemen, you will see consists of two panels. The panel on the left, this is entirely added. The panel on the left, ladies and gentlemen, are 10 sketches, which we've retrieved from storage. And the panel on the right are the 10 chromolithographs, which we've again added to the collection. Yes, those are the sketches. And these are the chromolithographs. And if you look at the chromolithographs, it's quite a rare display, because the lower row, the three ones in the center are the 3 seasons. It's very rare to get 3 of them together. The Sree Chitra Art Gallery has them. So it's Padmini, Varini, and Varini is the one which you saw on my presentation, you know, the one which Ravi Varma took out of a European picture. That's the picture which you're seeing in the center. And then, of course, Vasantika on the right. Now we'll move into the final segment on the ground floor. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is the Mysore Collective. This entire Mysore Collective consists of 4 keddas. There's one kedda in the middle, which on the top of the middle, which we retrieved from storage. It was never on display. And all of the pictures which you see on the screen were painted between 1904 and 1906, Ravi Varma's last important commission, during the reign of His Highness Krishna Raja Wadayar the 4th. Ravi Varma, of course, painted was also patronized by the previous Maharaja Chamaraja Wadayar the 10th. This assemblage which you see on the screen is all during the reign of Krishna Raja Wadayar. Now we have 4 Khedda operations and 2 and then certain other studies, including character studies. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, those are the Kheddas. So the one on top has been brought out of storage. It's the Khedda camp. Yes, and then you can. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the ground floor dedicated exclusively to Raja Ravi Varma. The upper floor, ladies and gentlemen, is for the artists associated with Ravi Varma. Here also the original mandate which had been given to me was to have C. Raja Varma, Ravi Varma's brother, Mangalabai Tamburati, which was Ravi Varma's sister, and Rama Varma, Ravi Varma's son. But I added a few more artists. The artists which I added to the collection were Ramaswamy Naidu, Padmanabhan Thambi, Frank Brooks, and Horace Van Ruth. Here also the collection gets enlarged. The original number was, it started with 40, and which was 38 C. Raja Varmas and 36 Raja Varmas, 2 Mangalabais and 2 Rama Varmas. Now it is increased to 53 on the first floor. This is an increase of 32%. While we did this display, we have followed the theme of doing it artist-based, because it's been difficult to do it theme-wise, considering we have a number of artists which we're dealing with. This is the panoramic view of the first floor, and we start this the first floor with the 2 pictures on the left by Ramaswamy Naidu, The one on the left is the Nair lady tying the flower garland, which Ravi Varma replicates and sends to an exhibition, although the painting we are not able to trace. And the one on the right is called Typical Costumes. Again, Ravi Varma follows this theme in the Galaxy of Musicians, which is in the Mysore collection now in Jagan Mohan Palace. And then we move to the right. This is Mangala Bai. Mangala Bai has followed this for the reason this is the only portrait of Ravi Varma in the collection, an oil portrait. So he had to go right in the middle. So there you have Mangala Bai, the following Ramaswamy Naidu. And then on the right are the three paintings by Padmanabhan Thambi. These are the three Maharajas who are in some way or the other associated with Ravi Varma. So you have Ayilyam, Vishakam and Moolam Tirunal, all the three of them here. Now we move into the paintings by C. Rajaraja Varma. Yes. So this starts on the northern wall and goes on onto the entire eastern wall of the first floor. So we have a huge collection of Rajaraja Varmas here, out of which we've actually brought out one from storage. Two from storage. Beautiful little landscape. So this is the entire, of course, the first portion was the northern wall, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is the eastern wall, entirely showcasing Rajaraja Varma. Let's run through some of the Rajaraja Varmas. Yes. Yes. So here we have some landscapes. The six which are in this, which you see put together are like waterfronts. They've been sort of thematically arranged in a sense in which you can sort of make, so these are the waterfronts. Then we move to the right, please. So you have the three on the left are beautiful small paintings of women, very pretty ones. And then what you're seeing in the center, the five in the center, is C. Rajaraja Varma's Udaipur collective. At the same time, Ravi Varma was doing his work. Rajaraja Varma was pottering around Udaipur, going to sort of going across the lake, going to Kasodi and painting cityscapes. So he loved the sunlight in Udaipur. And so this is Rajaraja Varma's Udaipur collective. Again, very well documented in the diary. Here, ladies and gentlemen, we move into, again, a set of landscapes, which you see on the screen. And the last picture, which you see on the extreme right, in the present catalog, is shown, the Padmanabha Swamy, please. Yeah, the picture which you see on the right, yes, this one. In the present catalog is shown as Ramaswamy Naidu. But if you remember in my PPT, I showed you the first catalog which James Cousins made. In that catalog, this picture is shown as being by C. Rajaraja Varma. So we've been amending the catalog also and making it more accurate to what the original sources said. So this got added into the C. Rajaraja Varma panel. Now we move to the right. Yes, here, ladies and gentlemen, you will see the ones by Frank Brooks. The two which you see on the left are by Frank Brooks. The painting in the center is called The Lady with the Fan and is a portrait of Rajibai Mulgaonkar. Rajibai Mulgaonkar, interestingly, was Ravi Varma's model as well, was a Goan Kalavant. And it is this girl who actually posed for Ravi Varma's very famous Lakshmi. Of course, Ravi Varma idealized the face for the Lakshmi, but the girl which you're seeing staring at you is the very girl who becomes Ravi Varma's Lakshmi. So it's a very important picture. So she goes right in the center. And then we end and the one on the right is by Horace Van Ruth, the only picture by him. And the last segment are the two paintings by Ravi Varma's son, Rama Varma. So with this, ladies and gentlemen, we have curated the entire first floor of artists associated with Ravi Varma. Now, with all of these pictures on the wall, what next? What does the curator have to do next? Well, firstly, to re-examine the entire title cards. So that is being done. I've also looked at the titles. I've also
अब
re-examined.
कैसे खोलेगा?
Hello. Yeah,
हाँ?
I've examined the titles, and we've also examined
एक जहाँ पढ़
many of
देंगे
the
ना,
artists.
इतना
But
मेरा
how do you elevate the
आपको
curation?
आज ये
Well, the way in which you elevate the curation is to, I've here and I've given you so much of information. But what happens if I am not here? Where are you going to get all of this information from? So the way to go about it, like all museums abroad, is to have an audio guide. And when I was thinking of an audio guide, I said, why on earth's name are we going to reinvent the wheel? Because having an audio guide is going to be very difficult. The museum will have to procure them. People are going to run away with their headsets. You're going to keep them, you'll have to keep them clean. You'll have to keep a track of them. That's a very expensive thing to do. So I said, why reinvent the wheel? Why don't we have podcasts? And what we'll do with the podcast really is to simply upload them and to have QR codes on the title cards, which you can go in and you can scan, and there you will have the narrative like what I have given you just now. But then I was speaking to a friend of mine, Siddhant Shah, and he says, Ganesh, that's all fair enough. But what about access for all? What about a person who cannot hear? So what's your audio guide going to do to him or her? I said, yeah, so what do we do? He says, why don't you do the same thing as a YouTube video? And on the YouTube video, what you can do is to put in the text. So a person who cannot hear can read the text. So when we decided to do the YouTube video, I said, that's a fantastic idea. Thank you, Siddhant. I decided that what we'll do is we'll bring in all the additional information, which like I have given you just now. So when you are in the museum, you scan the QR code, put your headsets on, don't disturb other people, and listen to the additional narratives which are going to take place. So a number of these QR codes are being evolved now as we speak. So you are going to expect this museum to really push the conversation. And in that sense, take it beyond pretty pictures on the wall, take it into a thematic display, take it into additional information, take it into people who have disabilities or have special needs, and thereby really push making art accessible to all. For after all, this is exactly what Ravi Varma intended. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to conclude my session this evening by saying the Ravi Varma, the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, we hope and pray, will actually emulate what Ravi Varma stood for, art for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. That was absolutely delightful to get into a curator's mind and understand how it works, and to see what the way you've envisaged this museum is absolutely fantastic. The way you brought in technology, I must compliment you. That is very clever. But what I can't expect anything less from a fifth generation lawyer, can I? And thank you for allowing us into your mind and into this lovely idea and this reimagination that you've shared so beautifully with us. And what a perfect day to have it, Museum Day. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ganesh. Our second
Most
speaker,
welcome.
thank you. Our second speaker for the night is Zeba Maria, who is currently the design head of Quern Design Studio from Calicut, Kerala. Quern is a design practice that aims at breaking stereotypes and known for treading uncharted territory for finding design ideology. You can see this in her presentation, obviously. The firm's principles are rooted in finding and executing a personal narrative to each project. Known for revitalizing and restoring heritage structures in and around Calicut, the principal designer's background in graphic design also plays a crucial role in the bold and unabashed approach to forms, shapes, and colors for every project delivered under the brand. Graduate at TKM College of Engineering, Zeba is also an architectural travel enthusiast. She is a co-flanner of the Three Flanners Architectural Travel Collective, a proficient team passionate about design and curated architectural travel. So on to you, Zeba. Share with us your ideas and what you're doing to this lovely project.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you. So good evening, everyone. I've been invited today to talk about the design and architecture of the reimagined Ravi Varma Museum. And to be honest, Mr. Ganesh and Mr. Girikumar sir played a pivotal role in directing the course of the gallery design. And as architects, we had the privilege of implementing their vision in an aesthetic setting. And it was very important for us, especially in this project, since a museum design, by definition, should not be about the architecture of the building, but rather a building in service of art. So we collaborated with Mr. Ganesh regarding matters of curation and how best Ravi Varma's paintings could be portrayed and what his requirements were to implement that storyline, as he spoke well during his presentation. And with Mr. Girikumar sir, who scrutinized and guided us in integrating facilities that ensure the maintenance and conservation of the paintings. What we try to achieve here is to bring together eminent profiles for a common good. And this has been an underlying theme for Raja Ravi Varma Museum. And this is a huge deal for us, as it would mark a beginning in the museum architecture scene in Kerala. Mr. Girikumar sir can vouch for this, as he has been an avid advocate to implement all this in the built and unbuilt museums here, and who has been a forerunner and demanded that this be done for our museum, the Sree Chitra Art Gallery, owing to the conditions the artworks were stored in. So in short, Ravi Varma Museum is a collective effort by people who are really passionate in what they do. So on that note, I would like to take you through a discussion we had on one of our meetings. So Mr. Ganesh, as Sharon said, he's like very excited about Ravi Varma. So he has brought everything out of the storage, and and that's great, because as a curator, he wants to bring a narrative to an otherwise randomly placed collection of artworks that is in Sree Chitra Gallery right now. So I remember him saying that he wants people to know and learn what is in his head as well about each painting and about the story that went behind it. And I'm super excited because that will mean the lithographs are also going to come out for the public to see. This is immense because they have never been on a permanent public display until now. The lithographs are so important as they are the reason Ravi Varma's art became so popular. It made way into people's homes at a time where art was deemed as a luxury, and that is why he's known as the artist of the masses. So while all of this is happening, Girikumar sir goes, do you really need to put up all 10? A sketch and a canvas together is a conservator's nightmare. But we have found solutions to all of those, and the lithographs and the sketches, as you've seen, are on a separate wall, and wherever they come together, light equipments are chosen and placed with the right intensity so that the sketches will not be overexposed. The equipments are even customized. I think, Mr. Girikumar sir would like to elaborate on it during his talk and the importance of it. But his heart is in the right place, because as a conservator, that's his job to be concerned about. But one thing that he said had a profound effect on us, and he said that the paintings might be inanimate, but it's very much living, and it has a lifespan, and we are here to preserve them as long as we can. So, and that alone should make us reimagine the way we design museums, which is befitting to this year's theme on International Museums Day, the future of museums, recover and reimagine. So without further ado, and let me quickly take you through our design journey where we try to recover and reimagine Raja Ravi Varma's museum. I will share the screen right now. So Ravi Varma is one of India's greatest iconic artists of all time. The task is to design an art gallery that celebrates the legacy of the renowned artist Raja Ravi Varma, and this was no small challenge. Our design is inspired from the artist's work that demonstrate fusion of European art techniques within an Indian context. And the intention was to bring together a composition of modernity that blends with the architecture of the surrounding environment. So the project to create the art gallery came with several constraints like any other. It had to be designed in a very tight space behind the existing Sree Chitra Art Gallery #1 and Gallery #2, both being heritage buildings. The design should be within a tight rectangular setback of 45 by 13 meters, and this area is completely occupied to accommodate the requirements of the structure. The challenge was to design a gallery in such a way that blends seamlessly with the existing two buildings while connecting them for an uninterrupted flow of movement. A souvenir store is designed at the entrance of the site for the commercial viability. A ticket counter that was placed at the foyer of Gallery #1 initially is proposed at the entrance of the site. A police post with amenities that monitors all functions and services of the gallery are placed here as well. A toilet block, as per requirement, exclusive for the art gallery visitors and staff, is placed at the far end of the site. So the three primary roles of a museum are education, presentation, and curation. As designers, our objective was to facilitate these roles through zoning and plan. Proficient zoning helps the visitor to gain unique experience, and we managed to implement zoning not only in the new museum building, but in the existing buildings as well. They were integrated in such a way that they support each other, resulting in a functional and efficient design. So you enter the gallery #1 from the entrance gate through landscape and landscaped areas. An interpretation center is designed replacing the existing exhibition space. This interpretation center enhances visitor interaction with the art and the artist. The promise of education and knowledge is achieved through audiovisual communication facilities and provisions to conduct talks, outreach programs, and exhibitions. The interpretation center is followed by a pre-exhibition space that will reinforce and promote the audience's engagement with the exhibition. For students and academics, a library is also designed within the unit. This gallery #2 will also house the original works by Rorix and several other notable collections from different regions and eras. The new gallery building, visitors are led to the building through a bridge while enjoying the landscape and water courts on either side. Moving on to the architectural plans. The ground floor. 572 square meters in area, the ground floor houses a large gallery of 315 square meters dedicated entirely to the master artist Raja Ravi Varma and houses 83 of his artworks. The larger-than-life gallery with its curation brilliantly done by Mr. Ganesh is befitting to the exemplary artist. 8 feet wide corridors connect the gallery with the stairways and the service rooms. Service rooms are provided on either side of the halls. So from the onset, we realized the delicate nature of the artworks and how it is prone to deterioration and if appropriate measures were not considered. So a major task was to incorporate techniques that facilitate preservation of artworks, and keeping this in mind, all services are designed by associating with Mr. Girikumar sir. The first floor plan houses a smaller gallery of 230 square meters, and we have the School of Ravi Varma that occupies 53 artworks. The floor also houses a storage room. With this, a unidirectional movement is achieved throughout the building, which enables easy flow of traffic. Also, service rooms are provided at this floor as well. Some 3D visuals of the new building. The elevation is a nod to the composition of traditional Kerala arches and the ingenuity of weaving it with the modern context. Semicircular arches in the elevation acts as a deconstructed element of traditional Kerala architecture. It is modified to meet the design needs, creating an impressive entry. The facade on the ground floor is very porous for the gallery to be in continuity with the exterior public space and landscape. On the upper level, the corridor is flanked by reimagined wooden and concrete vertical louvers with colored glass window strips. The roof design of the new building complements the surrounding heritage structures that have impressive steep slope roofs. The landscape design can be defined as simple and elegant, staying truthful to the local terrain, climate, and flora. The design is a transition space between the indoor and the outdoor spaces, connecting exhibition clusters and providing relaxing spaces with inbuilt seating that echoes the landscape, can be seen throughout the site. It is also designed to use natural and local materials as much as possible, and the design celebrates vernacular architectural materials and blends with the natural surroundings. A few images of the entrance and souvenir store, the ticket counter, and the inbuilt seating throughout. Entry from the zoo. So before I conclude, I would like to share a walkthrough we've prepared for the project. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Zeba. It's fantastic how you use technology so beautifully to bring the place alive, even though it's not ready as yet. And so when can we expect to see this?
Well, it's still under construction and the lockdown hasn't helped us. So we need to see where the construction will take us going soon after the lockdown lifts.
Thank you. We can't wait to get there. Okay, so it's always lovely to welcome friends. And here I welcome Mr. S. Girikumar, who has been a friend for many, many years. Giri has been working as a conservation consultant for various institutions in India for about 30 years. He has been involved in many projects, documentation, condition assessments, conservation and restoration exhibitions, and storage of art collections. He has worked with a number of individual and institutional collections like the IGNCA for the Arts in Delhi, the Nizam's Private Collection in Hyderabad, the Al-Qazi Foundation for the Arts, New Delhi, and amongst many other illustrious institutions. He is a regular guest lecturer and teaches theoretical and practical aspects of conservation of a variety of materials to the MA conservation students at the National Museum Institute in New Delhi, and traditional building material and conservation theory to the MA architecture conservation students at the Sindhar College of Architecture in Pune, amongst the institutions in the country. He is also a publisher of many articles and many related to conservation. And during this talk, he's going to tell us about how he has looked at this collection. I mean, with a collection of this age, obviously conservation is the most important aspect. And Ganesh has brought alive the story and the narrative, while Zeba has put this on a platform, and Ganesh is going to tell us how to actually keep it for future generations. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, Giri will tell us. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you, Sharon. I feel privileged to be sharing this space with these two fantastic people, the curator and the designer. They've been doing this marvelous work. And then I have to put in my 2 bits. So basically, I'm going to let me share my screen. And can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay, so it's as it says, it's behind the scenes. So they're all working in the front, bringing the collection out. And I'm just doing a bit of things behind the scene. And for me, this is also a very emotional project, and it's also a dream project. I have been seeing this collection from for a long time, and since I was 5 years old. I grew up very close to Trivandrum, in a village very close to the Kilimanur Palace. So I've been hearing about Ravi Varma, and then whenever we came to the city, my father used to take me to this museum, and I've been seeing that since then. And then I left home and went to study conservation, and then I started looking at the collection differently. And so we have been trying to create a facility and give better treatment to this collection for a long time, talking to various people in the government and the museum. And it just went on like that. Then about 2018, when the flood happened, so there's a lot of cultural institutions got submerged. So we managed to salvage the collection. And but at the same time, immediately after that, when I went there as a part of a UNESCO team to conduct a disaster management workshop, so I realized that there is no facility, nor the expertise in the state to restore them and put them back in the museums. So then I talked to Dr. Venu, who was the Secretary of Culture at that time, and he's still there. And said, like, there is a need for a state-of-the-art conservation facility here. And we should use this opportunity to create something. And then he said, oh, yes, that's a good idea. Just give me a concept note. So I sent a note, and then he said, yeah, that's fine. You give me a detailed report. So then, again, because of various reasons, nothing happened. Then last year, Mr. Abu and Mr. Chandran Pillai, who is the executive director of the Kerala Museum, they called me and said, like, we have some funds for conservation of Ravi Varma paintings. So we need your help. So then I thought, okay, this is an opportunity to create that, like, to put my dream into, to make it materialize. So I said, like, the best way of going about it is, let's create a laboratory. And first of all, like, since you don't have the expertise, set up a committee of practicing conservators with enough experience. And under their supervision and guidance, conservation laboratory, and then hire a conservation team and execute the project. And they accepted that, and then asked me to head the committee. And then another colleague, Girikumar, and then Professor Chitra Vanu, who is an art historian. So they came on board. So we formed the committee, and we started working on the conservation lab. So the gallery and the curation, the new display scheme was a parallel project which was independent of this. And so then we needed a space, a suitable space for the laboratory. And the director said, like, we could use the space which is at the Education Museum's Education Department. I'm just moving forward. Is it moving, the slide?
Yes, it is. Please move.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the space which is used for the education activities of the museum. And so it was like this when they moved in. And there was an open veranda. And she thought, okay, like, this has to be converted into the lab. And we made plans, and we sent to the museum. So because in the given conditions, I had to manage everything remotely. And it wasn't that easy. But then eventually the lab space came up. So this is the conservation laboratory now. That's what it looks like. So we have most of the equipment in place. And this is designed, even though this is meant for these paintings, I have a little private agenda. I'm just looking at a permanent conservation laboratory for the other materials as well. So this has been designed as a flexible space. If you look at it, every piece of equipment, furniture is mobile. So we can move them around, push it to whichever layout we want, and then we can make it adapt it for any kind of object in this collection, or in the museum's collection, or anywhere else, from any other collection. And this furniture is of the right height. The stools are with the height adjustable, so that, like, it's easy on the conservators. And so again, yeah, this is another view of the lab. Another one. And this is that open veranda we enclosed and then made into a wet area. So here we can do all the washing and the objects, or any object which needs washing, or other activities, so that there's no water comes into the main area. And then we have we recruited a young team of conservators. So they've already started working. So they started looking at the preliminary condition report and studying the collection. And so the whole idea is, one, this is a permanent laboratory which will cater to the conservation needs of the state. In addition to that, what we are planning is to look deeper into these paintings. What I mean is try to understand the techniques and the materials, and create a data bank on these paintings, which is something which we haven't done anywhere in the country. So we just would like to build up a huge data bank. And then it's also eventually to have a training facility, so that we could teach conservation, which we need a quality training facilities also required in the country. So that's, again, which is something which is very close to my heart. So, and we are hoping to, both these need huge amount of resources, both in terms of material and infrastructure and human. So we are basically looking and trying to tap in the resources available within the city and other institutions and within the country, and probably even we could collaborate with other organizations once the lab is fully functional, and then the project takes off. And the whole idea is eventually create, evolve this space into a resource center for conservation in the southern region of the country. And then in the meantime, the new gallery came up, and the director of the museum, Mr. Abu, asked me to have a look at the plan. And so they sent me the drawings and the plan for ventilation and air conditioning and lighting. So then we started looking at each element critically. So this is the current display. So where we have fluorescent lamps, and there's no facility for specialized climate control or anything. So in the new space, that all has been planned, but now the problem is that we are going to run something which has been sitting here for more than 50 years, which I've been seeing this in a condition where there was no climate control, no specialized climate control. And if you are going to move into a very aggressively controlled climatic condition, these paintings are going to go into a shock. So we need to move them into that system gradually. And so we have already started monitoring the climate conditions using data loggers in the current gallery. And so when we move in, we will adjust the conditions as close as the current conditions, and then gradually bring it to a level which can be sustainable. So that's because that's also important. When you go into an aggressive climate control, we should be able to sustain it in the long run. So that's another idea. So we're just trying to find a compromise, because as I said, as Zeba also said, these are all not inanimate objects. So they do respond to the surroundings and the conditions. So we need to listen to them and then make them, I mean, the whole idea is not to put them in a freezer, and we have to make them comfortable, because they are the permanent residents in the gallery, and the visitors come and go. So even if it is not so comfortable for the visitors for a few minutes, these paintings should be in a comfortable place and the conditions. That's what we are working together. So then if you looked at the gallery, in order to get the maximum wall space, so there are no windows. So ventilation is a problem. So we have air conditioning system taking care of the ventilation. But then my concern was, if the ventilation system fails, so we have to shut down for some reason, for some time, what will we do? We need ventilation. So, and basically the place, the city where it is, the humidity is high throughout the year. And so if the humidity is high and the air is stagnant for about 48 hours, so that's when the fungus growth starts. So we talked to the air conditioning, the consultants, the designers. We thought, like, we need to introduce a ventilation system. So then the problem was, in the given building, how will you do that? So we thought whether we could use the existing or rather the air conditioning ducts is already planned, whether we could create a branch and introduce an industrial ventilator or industrial centrifugal fan, which could run when the air conditioners are shut down and circulate the air in this. So they have happily agreed to do that. And then that solves the problem. So then came the lighting. So if you look at it, it's just a very, the fluorescent light, which is, doesn't have a right kind of a color rendering index, which basically makes you see the colors differently. It's like, when you go to buy fabric, like clothes, and then you see in the shop, you choose a particular color, and when you bring it out in the sunlight, daylight, so you see a different color. So the same thing can happen in this case also when you use the fluorescent color, the fluorescent lamps, because they don't have all the wavelengths in the right proportions in their spectrum. So we needed to look at a specific lighting system, which will have a color rendering index, which is more than 90, as close to the natural light, and color temperature, which indicates whether it's a warm or a cool light. So here we are using something like 3250 LED lights, which is also free of ultraviolet radiations, and this particular chip we have narrowed in is the spectrum is as close to the natural light as possible, and without the excess of blue filtered off, which is safer for the paintings. And we'll have the individual heads, the intensity of the lights can be individually controlled, because here the lighting, this gallery, as Zeba said, like, we have works on paper and works on canvas, or the oil paintings. So they have different threshold exposure limits. The lighting intensity which the oil paintings can safely withstand is not something which is not safe for, it's too bright for the works on paper. So when they have a mixed display, so we need to control them individually. So we have the facility for that. And then we are also looking at connecting these different clusters of the lights through a movement detector, so that whenever there are no people around, so those clusters will be switched off, so that these paintings are not unnecessarily exposed. So this is required for the, since it's a permanent the display, so we need this for the long-term preservation of the paintings. So this is just to give you an idea of what the new lighting experience could be. So on the left-hand side, this is the current display with the fluorescent lamps. On the right-hand side will be the color temperature, which is close to the ones which you have chosen. So here, in addition to the conservation requirements, there is one more aspect to this, is to give a better visual experience to the visitors. Because the time when the Ravi Varma was painting, they were either only incandescent lamps or oil lamps. So we are trying to give the visitors the similar experience as what it was when he was painting. So, and fortunately, we had the curators and the designers agreed to incorporate these elements, and then we are together, working together to for a common goal and give the best experience to the visitors without compromising the safety and long-term safety of the exhibits. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was lovely. It's always nice to see how you think up these things and come up with all your solutions. Thank you so much. You'll give it life, and you'll give it another many hundred years. So thank you, Giri.
Thank you.
Thank you all. It was a wonderful, wonderful conversation. We must take a few questions, because I think everybody has paid you all three of you, a lot of compliments. So you'll be able to read that on the chat box. And so let me take the first question. Prithvi Prabhu asks Ganesh, a few books on Ravi Varma claim that the reclining Nair lady was inspired by Edward Manet's Olympia. Is that credible?
You see, this is this is the point of the book which I'm writing. What exactly, in fact, there was a conversation between me and another scholar. I said, what constitutes an influence? So in today's day and age, it's very difficult for you to say this or that constitutes an influence, because you have access to so much of imagery over the internet. During Ravi Varma's time, this was not there. So the whole question is, did Ravi Varma see Edward Manet's Olympia? There is no proof of it at all. On the other hand, the picture which I showed you in my PPT is taken from Ravi Varma's library, and it is an identical pose. Therefore, it constitutes an influence. See, the problem now is they're trying to make Ravi Varma, in a sense, there's a lot of fiction to Ravi Varma which is going around now. There was a recent Facebook post which said it is reminiscent of Edward Manet's Olympia. Nothing of the sort. This was taken exactly from an illustration which is identical, which is in Ravi Varma's library, which Ravi Varma would certainly have seen. So I am of the view that I would like to disagree with the view that the reclining Nair lady was inspired by or reminiscent of Edward Manet's Olympia. This is my view. And there's actually proof to show that this is from Ravi Varma's library. So I don't think there's much difficulty with my version of it.
Okay, we have a very interesting question from Santanam. It is said that Ravi Varma had a huge collection of books. Can we find a complete catalog of those books online or anywhere else?
Unfortunately, no. Yes, he did have a huge collection of books. See, Raja Varma's diary is replete with many instances and observations of them going and buying books from Tarapurwala or Thakkar and Co. in Bombay. There is no complete catalog of the books for the reason that a lot of the books have sort of succumbed to white ants and things like that. So what was the exact extent or the inventory of Ravi Varma's books? Unfortunately, there is no complete catalog of it at all. No, we are only working with whatever is left.
So where are they now?
They're now in the Kilimanur Palace Trust. Okay. They are in the Kilimanur Palace Trust. They are in different locations in Trivandrum. They are portions of it are also with certain family members, etc. Yeah.
So there's no chance of putting them all together and making like a Ravi Varma library?
Unless they all come together, because they're all in private hands. So that it's difficult, you see. It was difficult to even trace them, let alone put it together. I think would be almost, I don't know. I mean, I would like to say an elephantine task.
Wishful thinking, right? It would be lovely if people could come forward and give it. It would be fabulous.
The thing is, putting them together, what is the use unless, there's someone who's really going to go into it. How many people are there who's gone into it? There are all kinds of analogies being made, Kerala and Gurchino and all that. None of that is true.
Okay, any more questions? I see a couple of things in the chat box. Let me just check that. No, everybody is complimenting you and thanking you. So I think we should wind up. It's 9:31. We were meant to finish at 9 o'clock. Thank you.
I would just like to sort of intervene. I would like to know if Dr. Chudamani Nandagopal is with us today. If she is listening, it'd be lovely to have a few words from her. Dr. Nandagopal?
Please introduce Dr. Nandagopal.
Yes, I think she's unmuted herself.
Yeah. And
ma'am, we'd love to see you. Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Yes. Ganesh, I should compliment the entire team who are working on the collections of Ravi Varma. And see, there are the three dimensions that all three of you have presented of the collections, usually in the museums. And while I was on the fellowship in Victoria and Albert Museum in '92, I was thinking, looking at the way, the display used to take place and the much, plans were, so ahead of times, and also conservation. Each work before, putting it, how much care they used to take. And the care they used to take on the collection itself, presentation and all these things. I used to feel that, when should we have in India this kind of, the thinking and the orientation towards. So now I can see that. I'm so happy that, all of you are putting that kind of, thinking and valuing those, collections. They are like small, delicate, so delicate, like, children there. And we have to care them so much. And this is how the conservation, when Girikumar was talking about the conservation, I was truly impressed. And the efforts, how much efforts, he is taking for this conservation. and training the professionals is needed today. And this lab, the government of India and government of Kerala should support and bring this lab for the whole India and see that, train good number of professionals India needs, this. And talking about very briefly on your presentation, it was so brilliant. And I could understand, how much of efforts you have put to come out, with this thinking, and the categorization of those works are very thematic and in a very, very aesthetic way you have brought. Otherwise, usually we see either on chronological or on other kind of categories. But this is an interesting way that you are going to present all the works. And more interesting are those sketches which are in the storage and coming out. And, this is one of your great contribution to the museum and also to the, RRV collection itself. So I compliment all of you and would love to see as early as possible all your efforts come true. So thankful. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your
very much,
kind
ma'am.
appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. I think all of us are waiting to see this museum.
Yes.
So the sooner you all can get it together and let us come to the opening and let us all know when we can come and see this fabulous collection. We have a lot of comments about this gentleman who wants to set up a museum and give back to the country. There have been lots of very lovely comments in the chat box. So I think people have been complimenting all of you. So many compliments. So thank you all. And for all of you, we'll be back again next month with a few more talks. We're doing a series of talks on museums. So it'll be on private and public museums. This is a government museum, which is going to be absolutely fabulous. We're also going to talk about the museums in Rajasthan and how they were revived and how it was a lot of museums were put together. And then we're talking to the new museum that's coming up in Bangalore, the Museum of Art and Photography. And then Mrs. Nadar and her curator, Rubina, are going to take us through their whole journey of the Kiran Nadar Museum. So this is a series of talks on museums, and I hope you'll all join us. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you, Giri. Thank you, Zeba.
Thank you.
Bye-bye and good
Thank you,
night. Good
Sharon.
night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.